Hi, it's Rachel. When we want to grow and to become a part of the Spirit of God, the Spirit of His divine nature, okay, which is life, abundant life, it's moving into eternity. We start obtaining and having a spirit of power and of love and a sound mind, right? And not a spirit of fear and lies and manipulation. So that means you're going to be growing in that love and that sound mindness, which the two of those together infuses power into your life, because the nature of God is made up of that love and that truth. And when you start having that unity of those two characteristics as a foundation of your life, you start moving in a lot of power, because you're starting to move in alignment with the very Spirit of God. And obviously there is nothing more powerful. And that is a journey that we grow into, because it comes from understanding. Okay, that's why those two are so tied together, that love and that sound mindness. So to gain understanding is to see this world, ourselves, rightly, in the right perspective, to see truth, versus being blinded by deception and lies and manipulation. So it's a waking up, and we do that by seeking what is truth that is sown in loving kindness. And when you start walking in that, you start walking in the wisdom of God, which is far superior in every way in your life to the wisdom of man. Obviously, okay? The wisdom of man is foolishness. It creates corruption and suffering and hardship and pain and all these other things, where the wisdom of God creates beauty and peace and joy and love and mercy and compassion. Okay, so it's two different realities, mindsets, worlds that you can be a part of. And so you want to come out of the one of fear and deception and come into the one of life. And I've been talking a lot about a huge area of where people have been blinded is with how we treat animals and interact with the animal kingdom. Okay, man has taken it so that they make profit off of animals in many different ways. And when that is done, wherever there is money and the love of money and that greed, it creates so much corruption on many levels. All right, and it feeds so many spirits that are totally counter to that spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind. Okay, it starts feeding greed and lust and oppression and deception and manipulation and lies and fear. So this is the journey of when you really want to grow and ascend, okay, in your mind, to function as a spirit being and not just a mere being of the earth, okay, but to grow and to ascend, then it comes from seeking understanding in all things from God. That's what is really going on, right? It's not letting yourself be blinded by the lies and the deception that keep you bound, but it's coming out of that, and you do that by seeking. So one of the main areas I've been talking about is with the animals. And I'm realizing that that whole industry is very vast. It is connected to so many other industries, and it is a heart that is breeding corruption and greed and lust and death and suffering on many levels. Okay, it affects, obviously you have a lot of animal cruelty. It affects our health in very negative ways. It affects our environment, and it just destroys our environment because of the mass production of animals and the effects that that has on our environment. It is a corruption in the government, because it's all about greed and money and manipulating laws and twisting laws and not influencing people in the right way. Okay, it affects our education system. It brings in lies about what is really good for us, because when money is behind things, money talks, okay? And when there's a love for money, it is the root of all evil. It causes people to twist things and do things that they normally wouldn't. So your education gets twisted up, and this directly impacts the medical and pharmaceutical, because as long as people are unhealthy, those industries thrive. So this is an industry that has its effect in just about every area of our world. That's why it's so foundational. And the thing is, it affects almost every single person, because in some way people have choices about whether they eat animals, whether they buy products that are tested on animals, or abusing animals, or leather, or whatever it may be. There are so many different industries tied to profit from animals, and it's all sown in corruption. And I wanted to recommend this book to you. It's called Meatonomics. Okay, it's a very recent publication, so the information is very up to date. And it is by David Simon, and he's just going into this industry, okay, the meat and dairy industry specifically. And what you're going to see is a very eye-opening book. It is, I haven't finished it, I've just started it. Already I have learned so much. It dives into, he pulls back the curtain on what's really going on, okay, about how powerful this industry is and how hidden it is. It is, and it's meant to be hidden in terms of what's really going on there, in terms of the treatment of the animals, in terms of its control and the government and the laws and its influence there, its manipulation of people's minds. And that's one reason I'm suggesting that, because we want to be moving into a spirit that's of a sound mind and that's of love. Okay, and what you realize when your eyes start opening up to these industries is that there is nothing of that spirit in that industry. Okay, because the way that animals are manufactured now to keep prices cheap and for the mass production and consumption. I mean, just think of how much meat you see everywhere in the fast food and these huge stores like Costco's and Sam's and these grocery stores. I mean, it's tons of meat everywhere. Okay, to get that meat to you cheaply means that the animals are treated very cruelly, and also they're not taken care of. So there's a lot of contamination that's happened, but it doesn't matter, because it's all about money. It's all about the bottom line. Okay? And that's what he starts explaining. He starts getting into the different laws and how animals basically are not protected at all from cruelty because of all the loopholes and things not being enforced, and the influence on the government. Okay? That whole system is so corrupt. Okay? So it's very eye-opening to understand how far-reaching this industry is, and it is just about more powerful than any other industry in its influence and what it gets away with, okay, in terms of cruelty and how unhealthy it is for people to consume it, because especially how it's sown and how those animals are treated and not taken care of, and the infections that they get that are just all a part of what people end up eating. All right? And just for example, for these animals, because it's all about getting as much meat and dairy out as fast as possible in the short amount of time. Okay, bottom line thinking. So animals are supposed to be often stunned before they're killed, and because of the speed, that process often isn't done right, so they're just sliced open alive. okay? And animals that, you know, they can't use for whatever reason, especially a lot of chickens, they just end up throwing in a wood chipper to kill them alive because they don't want to take the time to do anything mercifully, okay? But none of it is sown in mercy. None of it is about love. None of it is with any kind of wisdom, okay? Because it's just so destructive on every level. And the overarching thing that's been striking me is that it's sowing a very great spirit of fear. Animals feel fear. They feel stress. And when you start looking into behind the scenes of what's really going on there, that's all it is. They are in constant fear and constant stress because of the way that they're treated, the conditions that they're in, to keep cheap prices and to keep all the mass amounts of meat out there, okay? Because there's a growing demand of meat because of the marketing that's done. All right? It's so much deception. So that means that these animals are treated very, very poorly. So don't think that the situations that you hear are just one-off situations or anomaly. It's not. It's common practices that happen in these industries. So this fear that is there, the spirit of fear is not of God. Okay? Perfect love drives out fear. So if we are feeding a spirit of fear, so if you're partaking of those industries, you are feeding that spirit of fear. You're also feeding on that spirit of fear. Okay, you are taking in that fear. Whatever those animals are sown in, you're taking in that into your body. You're taking in the fear. You're taking in the stress. You're taking in the cruelty. Okay, it's because it's within them. It's contained within them. They've shown that, for example, when you're stressed, your body takes it. Your cells have memory. Your cells hold the fear. That's why people have tensions and pains and issues in their body. It's derived a lot from your emotions. Okay, so we see that. So when you're consuming them, you're also taking all that in. But to me, the main thing here is that the Spirit of God is a perfect love and it drives out fear. So if we're engaging in industries that are actually perpetuating fear and increasing it because of the demands, then we are doing something totally counter to the Spirit of God. And you can't serve that world system and that way of thinking and God. You can't serve both because they're opposites. So there's a choice to be made. And our choice is for love. Okay, that's to choose God. Right? That's because He is love. And He has sown His creation in love. So what you will find, that's why I wanted to offer that book, and Strawling suggests it, because it will just open up your eyes. Because the marketing, and he goes into this too, is marketing is done in such a way to keep us blinded. Okay? You've heard the different phrases of beef is what's for dinner. Okay? Pork, the new white meat. Milk, it does the body good. We've all been trained to think, we hear these, and we just receive them in without any kind of filtering. And what it does is it shapes our mind and our understanding. And so we act in those ways. All right, that the mind is very powerful, okay, and it can be shaped actually very easily. But with the power that these industries have, the messaging is very, very important. So the moment something negative comes out, like the swine flu, they immediately address it with counter messaging, because they know that the real power here lies with the consumers. All right, and that's why we are to be lights in this world, meaning of truth, of loving kindness, and to grow a spirit of peace and harmony, to be the peacemakers, to grow a spirit of not fear, okay, but of love and of safety. And when you're feeding those industries, you're doing the opposite. But they have been so successful in blinding people by all the marketing and the media. It's amazing when your eyes start opening, it's everywhere. Okay, about how they put happy cows out there and make all these cute images. That is nothing like what's happening in those slaughterhouses and where they're being manufactured. And it's time to be aware of that, because you have to come out of that whole system, of that whole way of thinking, and start coming into a whole different reality that is sown in righteousness and love and loving kindness and truth. Because that is how you will grow in a deeper connection with God, and you will benefit yourself and all of creation. Here's the thing too about love, is that when you truly love, you live for each other, meaning your actions help and protect and love and care for others. They don't hurt others. Okay, you don't cause others suffering. You don't cause others fear. Okay, it's a perfect love. It drives out fear. So that whole industry, those animals, they're sown in complete fear about in how they're treated. Animals feel fear and stress. Okay, so, and it's a completely sown in a spirit of greed. That's nothing of love. And to love, the divine love, is also to love beyond yourself. Okay, you're not just concerned with your own suffering, because most people think, well, if I feel comfortable, then it doesn't matter what happens to other people. Okay, that, remember, that's that I'm more significant than someone else, what they do doesn't matter. But this love tied on and moving on to beyond that too, is this love always extends beyond itself. Okay, that's what love does. It moves outward, and it's always kind and caring and for others. All right, so you can't be a part of these industries feeding them that spirit of fear and deception and manipulation and cruelty and greed and lust, because that's how they attract you. It's all by the lusts. Okay, how and be a part of this spirit of God, which isn't about fear. So there is a serious choice to be made. You can't find deliverance. We as a whole, each soul, in death. And the reality of moving into a spirit of God is that when you grow in true wisdom and true understanding, it changes your perceptions, your actions, and your choices. And this is to highlight and for you to see that the vastness of this industry is sown in everything that is counter to the Spirit of God. There is nothing good at all of God found in that industry at all. And the consumers, we're the ones that actually hold the power here. Yes, they are very powerful in their ability to manipulate our mind, but they are so because of the advertising. But if we choose to wake up and to seek the wisdom of God that is from above, that is full of loving kindness and is not fear, then the choices we make in not feeding those industries will bring an end to them. God desires not that we give and act in acts of death, okay, but that we act in life, in what's of life, that's what is of Him, that is what is of that truth and that loving kindness. And this is an industry that if we're a part of it, we are feeding corruption in many, many, many different industries, as I had already mentioned. Now is the time to come out of that whole system, to wake up, to start living and being a light, and no longer feeding the darkness and perpetuating the darkness and the torment and the cruelty and the fear and the suffering. And it comes with very real choices, and this is one that will have massive, massive ripple effects in this world.